Welcome back to Hobby Jogger Elite, and welcome to my half marathon recap. If you didn't see my latest video, I'm currently training for the Chicago Marathon and just completed the Harrisburg half marathon in Pennsylvania as a bit of a tune-up race. Day after the race, day after the half marathon, a little bit sore. I am super happy with that time. I was not intending to give it as much effort as I did, and I actually didn't intend even in the moment to give it as much effort as I did. I was sort of, I wouldn't say negotiating with myself, but essentially trying to save my expectations a little bit, in that if the effort could not be exerted, given that I didn't taper, given that I had tired legs, it would be okay. I was sort of almost already consoling myself that you're tired, you're marathon training, don't get down on yourself if you're not able to put out an effort that you typically would be able to if you were actually training for a half marathon race. As I got going with the run, about a mile in, maybe not even at the mile mark yet, I was like, it's time to have some fun. The other main reason, beyond just deciding to give the race what I had, was that my GPS watch was giving me all kinds of misreadings along the way. It lasted the whole entire race. For whatever reason, I've never had a problem with Coros when it comes to GPS tracking my races. Every single half marathon I've run with my brother, for instance, has been extremely close to the exact half marathon distance when I crossed the line. When I ran this race a couple years back, when it came to the Harrisburg Full Marathon, I came through the halfway point on the first loop at pretty much exactly the half marathon distance, and the final marathon distance that my GPS watch read was pretty much right at the marathon distance. But for whatever reason, every time I clicked the manual split when I reached the real physical mile marker on the course yesterday, my watch was a tenth of a mile behind measuring it, 0.15 miles behind measuring it, at times 0.2, almost a full quarter mile behind measuring it. My watch was telling me that because it wasn't quite lining up with the full distance of those mile markers, it thought I was running slower. Thought that I was running 6:20 a mile for a good portion of this race, when in reality, every time I would manual split my watch, I was closer to 6:10, 6:05. Some of the manual splits were much faster than I thought I was actually going in real time. So honestly, if I would have had a genuine accurate reading from my watch, I probably wouldn't have run as fast as I did. So who knows if that was sort of a performance enhancer or not. But yeah, this was a PB for me for marathons. I've split in the 126 range for half marathons when I've run marathons, but on actual half marathon races, this was a massive PB for me. And the splits were 6:12 for the first 2 miles when I had no idea how fast I was running, and 6:10. Then on mile 4, you hit a little bit of a hill, and it's kind of hard to keep your momentum on this Harrisburg course. So it dropped down to 6:17 and then hit kind of a consistent flat portion, and I clocked 6:07 for the next 4 miles, for miles 5 through 8, and then worked around 6:15-ish, so it was 6:13, 6:14, 6:17 for the next couple miles. Started to definitely feel the effort and how hard I was working, and unintentionally working. At mile 12, when I ran a 6:20, there was another little bit of an incline there, and then got back down to 6:13 for the final mile. Had a bit of a sprint finish. When I looked at my exact pace approaching the finish line, I was down towards 4:40, 4:30 a mile. So I had enough gas to give it a nice finish for a sub 121, a 1:20:43 final time. More than anything, that's a great line in the sand in terms of fitness. And that line is further up than I expected it to be. I expected, if I were to race an all-out half marathon on tired legs, given where I am at fitness-wise, I did not think I would be in the sub 121 region. I wrote down on my planner right next to me my goal for this half marathon, and I don't always love to speak my goals out loud. I said a sort of conservative estimate, but pretty optimistically, if you're feeling really good, hold 6:14 a mile range, something that wasn't quite threshold, but something I felt in my head for some reason kind of picking an arbitrary pace that would sort of be what I was happy with, something that was just below essentially 122. And I ran over a minute faster than that. Very, very happy with that. My contingency plan was to just run it at marathon effort the whole time. Obviously, I did not let myself do. So pretty dang happy with the result. I don't like to read too much into these race predictors, race time equivalents, but coming from somebody who has been using the Daniels running formula quite a bit, who has read a lot about the Daniels running formula, who subscribes to Daniels training philosophy when it comes to these different sort of intensities and equivalent paces and training methods, different workouts. It has worked really, really well for me. And I actually find, and one of the main reasons that I follow it pretty much to a T, is because it has shown to be very accurate in terms of pace equivalence across the board. So when I look at, for instance, what I was able to do last year, I ran a 10K threshold tempo workout where it was just 10K straight of threshold work, which is essentially, when you're training solo, a 10K time trial. I ran that last year at a time of 37:30 in training. And that, in the Daniels running formula equivalent, ended up being only 10 seconds off of what my marathon finish time was. So the equivalent of running like the 37:30 range last year when I did that in training was 2:53:20. I ran 2:53:12 for the marathon. It is like pretty much as close as it gets. I feel like kind of looking at what the half marathon equivalent of that would have been, like 6:19 or 6:20 a mile for the half marathon, like right at or right below 123. That probably would have made sense for where I was at last year. Maybe I could have gone a little bit quicker if I would have trained specifically for that. Or VDOT scores, I put a line right at the number 56, which was the equivalent of the 10K I ran and the marathon. I almost ran those times to the exact T of that VDOT score. So given the time that I just ran for the half marathon, that would put me at a new VDOT score at, running 120.43 of 57.8. So just shy of a 58. And the marathon equivalent of that time is 2:48:40, sub 2:50. When I originally started this series coming off of last year's fall marathon, the intention was to try to run sub 2:50 in the spring, and I just couldn't keep up with back-to-back marathon training blocks. I felt super fatigued, transitioned to half marathon training, couldn't end up racing that half marathon. So we are sort of back here, and when I got started with this training block, I did not think I was even in a position to attack my PB all that aggressively. But now that I've run this half marathon on tired legs, that sort of indicates that I may very well be in a position to believe that I can attack my PB, and not only attack it, but attack it semi-aggressively and shoot for that sub 250 mark. I might be training with that in mind here. I feel like a lot of the success, according to my own standards or approach, that I experienced last fall during my marathon training block was not getting too focused and bogged down by the paces in a given workout, or just overall approaching things from a perspective of, you need to run this pace or you have failed this workout or this race. I ran everything by effort. I sort of let the paces come to me, let the chips fall where they may based on running by feel, and I ended up blowing my PB out of the water last year. I don't have a ton of time until Chicago, around a month or so. This definitely gives me some confidence to at least feel good about running the type of marathons that I can be fully proud of. I don't want to attribute that much value to it, but in reality, I want to be able to be on track to make improvements from year to year, especially when I have almost 12 months between marathon races. So who knows? Could I be in sub 250 shape? I might be. Could I have just had a lucky day? Who knows? I had the fitness to hold that pace for most of it. If you would have told me even a year ago or 2 years ago that I could run 6:10 a mile for a full half marathon, I would have thought you were crazy. So crazier things have happened. I'm going to give everything I have here in Chicago in a month. Hopefully keep training well over the next couple weeks or so here. We don't have a ton of time until we start to taper. Hopefully we give ourselves a good chance. But that is it for the post-race analysis, post-race reflection, whatever you want to call it. Sorry I didn't have any race footage. I would not be good at filming myself while I am racing. I am an absolute mess by the end of the race, so it's probably good that I didn't have a camera out there. But yeah, thanks for watching this one. We will catch up soon. Peace.